just a little bit cynical, just a little bit. And this is probably enough vamping, I think. But yeah, this should be a fun one.
Yeah, I'm
Talking
looking forward
shit
to it.
about shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give myself the single, Brad. So go the fuck away, or excuse me, go the f away. It is on YouTube after all, and we are not monetized anyway. So who gives an f? So hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of July 2023, and is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's going great. Great to be here. Having a great summer, and the summer Blu-ray sales are in full swing. So I haven't received any of them yet, but in future episodes, I'll have lots of new stuff to talk about.
Ooh, future episodes. Are we talking future Tales from the Shelf or future Cinema Speak episodes?
Both. Why? Yeah, both. Why not? Specifically, I was talking about Tales from the Shelf, but yeah, both.
Okay, well, I'm very much looking forward to that, as I'm sure our audience of 5 people are as well. So, folks at home, if you're not aware, a Tales from the Shelf episode is essentially an excuse for Brad and I to talk about our respective Blu-ray collections. You may have noticed in the background of our webcam feeds that both he and I have quite a lot of physical media. That is DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4K discs. In my case, I actually have DVDs. In Brad's case, have you purged all your DVDs, or have you allowed some to coexist with your Blu-rays?
None of them exist in my current residence. I'll say that. I haven't gotten rid of them, but they're not with me.
They're in dingy cardboard boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
In a dingy basement elsewhere.
Yeah, they're not showing off anywhere.
Yeah, and it's a running gag, folks. You're probably not aware, but Brad generally has a disdain for the DVD format. I myself do not share that stigma. In fact, I'm looking at a DVD that was recently released last week, I think, maybe even this week, that I'm probably going to buy. That says a lot. Just to dispel the mystery, I guess, I'll tell you and our listeners and viewers, hopefully. Gangs of London Season 2 is advertised on the Blu-ray.com website. Lovely website, by the way. You should definitely check it out. But as far as I understand, in our region, in the US, it's only being released on DVD, to my knowledge anyway, via RLJE, I believe. Reputable distributor for sure. But yeah, I will check that out. It's expensive for a DVD, though, which kind of irks me a bit, but I guess them's the breaks. But anyway, Tales from the Shelf is basically an excuse for Brad and I to talk about our movie collections. And each month we select a theme within which we like to select the films we're going to be talking about. And this month's theme is one and done films. And I have a feeling, Brad and I were talking before the mics heated up, that the definition of that concept is going to probably be a running theme, like a through line throughout this entire evening's conversation. Like, what do you think, Brad?
Well, it's just, you start to get into, one and done. So movies that we have purchased, watched once, and probably will never watch again. And well, first of all, just the concept of mortality and death. Like if I was immortal, there would be no one and dones. I think if I was immortal, I think I could justify anything in that I would rewatch. And going through my collection, I'm not too young, but I'm not overly old either. There's a lot of crap in my collection that I kind of looked at and almost grabbed and thought, there is a future where this could be potentially revisited. So I was actually pretty as strict as I could be. Like a good example is something like Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, which is a boring movie. It's not good, but the problem is that these franchises, I'm a completionist, and, a lot of times I will sit down and go through a whole franchise, like Mission Impossible 2. I just went through and rewatched all the Mission Impossible movies, and I sat through Mission Impossible 2, even though I think it's the worst one by far, and I was dreading watching it. I said, if I'm doing a full series rewatch, I got to do it. So that's an example. Other like examples, like sometimes a director, like one of their weaker films, I still think, well, I might do another deep dive on their filmography and go through everything. So, one and done. It was a little tough actually. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I probably will never watch again, but depending on how long I make it, there's a lot that could be argued that I might potentially revisit.
Yeah, I think virtually every selection that I've made today comes with some form of caveat. In fact, the blurb that I posted on the social media is like saying what the theme of the episode was. I used the word probably. Like probably won't watch again, because I think that's part of being invested in film in the way that both you and I are. I think that's also part of being a podcaster too, is that there's that research element of things when it comes to certain films. That it's like it's not so much about like if it's good or not. It's like, is it useful to you? Like taking in this film like at the appropriate time. Like say you're doing a deep dive on a director or an actor or something, can make the experience much more worthwhile. Like it gives you a very different reason for watching the thing rather than just objective quality or something like that. And that's part of why I enjoy having these conversations with you, Brad, is because I think you and I like it's like an education process. Like I like learning things from films. Like there's basically no, like, if I'm being totally honest, there basically is no film under the sun that I wouldn't watch more than once.
Hmm.
I would find an excuse to watch it twice just because I oftentimes notice different things the second time around. Usually bad things, but there's usually something deeper to be mined from something like upon second viewing. Um, so this is going to be a weird conversation, being as Brad and I both just disclosed that this is probably all bullshit. But this is just kind of an excuse to talk about movies that maybe we weren't especially impressed by, that we
And
happen to own.
I will say, I think for the most part, my pile, if I'm being honest with myself, like I said, yeah, most things I would like to potentially revisit, but if I'm being totally honest with the amount of time I have left, you know, 50 years if I'm lucky, and that's, well, I guess maybe not. Definitely 60 is, we're not going another 60. I mean, that'd be really lucky. I probably won't even be all there if I make it that long. But, like thinking of that much time, how many more movies am I going to want? If I'm being totally honest, I do think these are all done. Maybe I'm getting, a little worse, mortality's dawning on me. So now I'm going to maybe go out of my way to watch this to, combat that thought and push it out of my brain. But anyway, these are, if I'm being totally honest, I do think it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for me to ever watch these again.
Yeah, grab yourself some extra bottles of Starry. I'm sure that'll preserve you well into your hundreds.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's gotta be
Long
some reason to
life.
drink it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as is customary, I'm going to do my hosting thing here and promptly throw Brad directly under the bus and ask that he be the first one to unveil one of his one and done picks. So, Brad, what is your first film that you probably won't be watching ever again?
Yeah, so this one, when you pitched the concept, it was the first movie that popped to mind, and not necessarily like that's the thing. Actually, weirdly enough, a lot of these movies are probably not going to be like horrible, but they're kind of like almost more middling, where it's like, I don't just I'd almost rather watch something that's bad than something that's kind of like just boring. And boring really doesn't describe this movie. It's actually extremely exciting. This all makes sense hopefully when I reveal what the movie is. But it is a movie starring Tippi Hedren and Melanie Griffith. Very infamous movie. It is the movie Roar. Roar. Trevor, have you ever heard of Roar?
Yes, I have, Brad.
Yes.
The guys from Wisconsin, the Red Letter Media folks, they did a spotlight, not a full blown spotlight episode on it, but they talked about it at length. I know it by reputation,
Hmm.
but by all means, take the spotlight here.
Well, I mean, the tagline here says it all, and I don't know if this probably wasn't the tagline when the movie was released. If it was, I actually give this movie more respect, but the tagline on the Blu-ray is amazing and pretty much explains it all. No animals were harmed in the making of this film. 70 cast and crew members were. And the reason this movie is infamous is it is a story about a family living on like an African wildlife preserve, and it was filmed with real lions, large, real African lions, and basically, the actors were right there with the lions. There was really no safety precautions taken. They were filming right alongside these wild beasts, and yes, 70 cast and crew members were harmed from these large animals. And it's a pretty crazy movie to watch knowing that, because like, yeah, you're watching these actors like Tippi Hedren right next to this lion that could just, one swipe take her head off. And it's pretty wild to watch in that regard. But taking that away from it, the actual movie is pretty dull, I found. I mean, maybe if I rewatch this, maybe I like it more, but I found that like that was exciting for, like 10 to 15 minutes of that, but once you just to sit and watch this as a full film, it's kind of lame. I remember there was just a lot of like, not much happens. It really is they were, I guess, banking on the having real lions as a draw in the film, because it's pretty boring in my opinion. Like if like obviously this is not an apples to apples comparison, but like if this exact movie was made with CG lions, there'd be nothing to it. It would be just horrible. So it's not a bad watch because it is pretty exciting in spurts, but I just like the story and what happens. I couldn't see myself sitting and watching this whole thing back to front. I could maybe, certainly not back to front, maybe front to back, but um I could maybe see myself popping this in and just like watching some segments, maybe some sequences to get that itch of the real life danger. But to sit down and watch the whole thing, how long is this? I mean, it is only 94 minutes. I mean, we're leaning towards it could maybe happen a little, but I don't see myself ever popping this one in front to back again anytime soon.
Now, what year did that come out?
81, but I think it was filmed over like 10 years or something.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say it gives off very 70s vibes,
Hmm.
like animal attack movies, and in particular, environmental disaster films, like ecological disaster films, were
Hmm.
very much in vogue in the 70s. Um, but I think the background of that movie is probably far more interesting than the movie itself. Does that disc have like a making of or like any sort of like documentary attached to it?
Yeah, there is. I don't know how long it is. I don't know if I watched it even, but there is a making of Roar featurette.
Yeah, I bet you that is probably far more interesting than watching the movie, because a lot of those kinds of movies from that era had kind of like an industrial film kind of vibe where it's just point and shoot kind of. It's just like you're just kind of observing things happening, which in this case, the things that you're observing are kind of uh, like kind of tense, being as you have live unpredictable animals in the room with actors. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I'd ever need to watch that movie.
Hmm.
I've seen all the highlights and stuff. I know a few trivia factoids. Like I'm pretty sure Tippi Hedren like broke a leg at the hands of an elephant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget which actress it was, but I'm pretty sure like they got like mangled really badly. Like it was one of the core cast members like got their scalp ripped open or something, and
I think I remember that. Yeah.
forevermore kind of had to have reconstructive surgery, and it probably covered up pretty well, but it was a life-changing injury for sure. So all that stuff's interesting. But yeah, just seeing footage of the thing, it's like maybe with a rowdy group of people like watching it and like overreacting to all the like animal shenanigans, like maybe it'd be worth a watch. But like alone, I bet it would be dreadfully boring, honestly.
Yeah, no, yeah, I did watch it alone, so there you go. That's
Oh
probably
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I do wanna mention just real quick, I don't know if you know the news, and this is slightly off topic, but this Blu-ray released courtesy of Olive Films. And, Trevor, I don't know if, you want to or if you're able to or if you don't care, but, if you pull up Olive Film's website, they're done. They are donezo.
I'm sorry I don't have access to your soundboard. Otherwise, I would play "You're Done."
Yeah,
Um,
you're done, Olive Films.
Olive Films extends our sincere gratitude to all of our customers and fans over the years. We are no longer adding titles or selling any of our products, but we're proud of the many films and TV shows we've released, dating as far back as 1915. Wow. So
Oh.
they I don't know what happened. I don't own any of their films aside from Roar. Do you have any of their catalog?
I believe, my Cujo Blu-ray is Olive Films. And let me just tell you if I got any others, because I'll go on my Blu-ray.com app, sort by studio. What a great app. Go
What
to
a
Olive
great app.
Films. Yeah.
What a great website that
Cu-
produces such a fantastic app. We're
yeah.
totally not paid to shill.
Cujo and Roar are the only two releases of theirs I have. And you said you have how many?
Zero.
Well, looks like you're more to blame for this than I am. So
Yeah,
thanks,
I'm
Trevor.
part of the problem. I'm sorry, Olive Films. If only I'd bought your stockpile of
Yeah.
Roar, you'd still be around.
They certainly didn't have like much of a like I don't really it was kind of like didn't go out of your way to purchase any of their movies. Like they didn't have, at least as far as I know, much branding. Like it was like if the movie you wanted was an Olive Films release, you'd get it. But it's not like with Vinegar Syndrome or Criterion where when they put out a movie, it's like, oh, what is that? I'm gonna look into that. And it's more like, oh, that movie I want is put out by Olive Films. I guess I'll get it. So
Yeah, the world of physical media has become very interesting. It's very clicky. It's very
mhm.
brand savvy because Vinegar Syndrome and Criterion have brand allegiances going for them, where it's like I'm a Vincent guy. Like
Mhm.
everything Vincent is. I really like all that stuff. It's like I think I'll build my whole personality around liking Vinegar Syndrome. Same with Criterion. It's like I'll
Mhm.
buy anything they put out. Um, and all the films, like you said, I don't think they really had that going for them. But hey, they had a couple of titles worth owning, so
Yeah.
that's a shame. Like that, any small business like that, it's kind of a bummer to find out, even if I wasn't exactly buying their products or anything. It's it is somewhat of a niche market. And it is kind of tragic when one of them goes down.
I mean that is exactly right, Trevor. You weren't exactly buying their products. Hit the nail on the head there, bud.
Man, it's way too early for a guilt trip, man.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, it's not like I had that many. I mean, two. Like, get real.
Oh yeah, I'm part of the problem. I'm so sorry, Olive Films. It all falls to me. Okay, well, Brad, that was a wonderful pick. Roar. I don't think I'm even going to watch that once, but I'm glad that you could watch it and then report to me and tell me don't bother.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have a pick here that I'm not exactly excited to talk about. I mean, that might be the theme for the whole evening, honestly.
This is getting
Um,
depressing, man.
yeah, really, half of the reason I'm talking about this is because it's the director's birthday. So sorry, but
Mick
okay,
Jagger directed a movie?
it's Mick Jagger's birthday.
It was either today or yesterday. I can't
Oh
remember.
wow, that's cool. I
Oh, I
this
know.
is
Okay, I know who I know who it
Yeah,
is.
you know
I
who
think.
I'm talking
I'm
about.
I'm
You're
assuming.
you're
Yeah.
you're probably on the Twitter, like in the Twitter corner that I am as well. So, okay, so I'm gonna give myself a single here. So my first pick here, my first one and done here, comes to us from director Peter Hyams, father of John Hyams. Both are film directors, and it is Outland. starring one Sean Connery. And this is pretty much like the Western film High Noon, but in space. And it is, unfortunately, a little too dry and a little too straight down the middle to really like work for me. It's not bad. I think I gave it like a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So it didn't like upset me. I wasn't overly bored by it or anything. It just didn't have enough going for it. The production design is lovely. The sets are kind of cool, although they get a little too much mileage out of the one like the crew members' quarters section of the set, where it's like we have seen literally every angle of this space like by the time we get to the final reel of the movie. And as I said, like the plot and a lot of the themes are basically High Noon, where and even the fact that he's carrying a fucking shotgun in space, it's very much a western set in space. it's just it's just a little bit too dry. Sean Connery's fine in it. um, there's like a decent foot chase early in the film, but it's somewhat lacking in excitement. There's some like fun space shenanigans involving people's heads exploding and stuff that are very very welcome. Unfortunately, it's like in short supply, so it's not like Total Recall or something where it's like wall to wall head explosions and eyeballs popping out of heads and stuff. It's just like a thing that happens a couple of times in the movie and thus makes it somewhat memorable, but not especially memorable. But yeah, on the whole, this was a movie that I blind bought, because I was very curious to see Sean Connery in this kind of role at this point in his career. Peter Hyams' name does carry some weight with me. He's directed a lot of action movies and some sci-fi that I have liked over the years. In particular, like some of his collaborations with JCVD, with Jean Claude Van Damme. Big fan of. Like he's done good work for sure, but something about this just it didn't quite click for me. And as such, it's a Blu-ray that I own because I couldn't fucking find this thing anywhere for some reason. So I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm interested enough. I will give this a shot, and I likely won't ever watch it again. But now I can say I've seen it, and like when it comes up in conversation, I can actually like know like front to back like what that thing is, rather than just like, oh, isn't that the movie where someone's head explodes? It's like, yeah, that happens, but it's not, the whole movie isn't built around that. It's not fucking Scanners or something, which
Mhm.
has a lot more going for it, except, you know, it also has the pop culture value of having the Wayne's World connection in the form of the, did you ever see that part in Scanners when that dude's head exploded?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's Outland.
I'm curious, can you think of, because I can't really think of any off the top of my head, any other space set westerns? Like maybe I haven't seen the film, so maybe I'm looking at it a little too rigidly, but like like does it actually feel like a western just on a different planet or a moon or whatever it is?
From an aesthetic standpoint, they don't push it. Like they really don't push the Western agenda. It's more just vibe and archetypes, because he's literally like a sheriff showing up at a like a settlement, which may as well
Mhm.
be, it's a mining town in space basically, which is such a common trope in Western storytelling. And again, the fact that he's carrying a pump action shotgun, like an antiquated pump action shotgun, for like what little action there is, again in space, in the just like not too distant future but future scenario. um yeah, I'm trying to think of like space westerns, and I want to say that TV maybe has a lot more of those, because I know Firefly,
Yeah, that's
most
a
certainly is regarded as that.
how did
Cowboy
I not think
Bebop
of that? That's
has
embarrassing.
shades of Western in it, although it references countless things, so you couldn't pigeonhole it by saying it's a Western in space. It's like,
Mhm.
no, they have like episodes that are designed that way, and I think a lot of sci-fi television shows do that, like have a Western themed episode of some sort, something that feels analogous to the tropes of that genre. But in terms of movies, like I too am kind of drawing a blank. I'm sure there's a ton of them. They're just not coming to mind.
Maybe the opening of Star Trek 5 where they're camping and rock climbing.
And then they have beans and they sing "Row, row, row your boat."
Yeah, that's pretty western-esque.
I mean, that's Shatner for you.
Yeah.
He fancies himself a Canadian cowboy.
Mhm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to think on that because it is a combination that it feels like peanut butter and chocolate. Like it feels like something that should just fucking work.
Mhm.
But somehow they got the ratios wrong or something. I will say that Peter Boyle's pretty good in it. Sean
Yeah.
Connery's fine in it. I wouldn't be surprised if John Milius was brought in to punch up some of his dialogue, as he often was in this era. John Milius was Sean Connery's secret weapon. He'd get brought in whenever Sean Connery. Like I don't know if he was difficult like on the set of films, but I do know that he would come in with stipulations a lot of times, and a lot of times it involves speeches. It was like
Mhm.
the script is good, but are there any speeches? It's like, no, Sean, there aren't. I'm going to call John. John, get over here. And John Milius would show up and he'd pound out some
Yeah.
Conan-esque dialogue for him, some Hunt for Red October shit. Like half of his shit in Hunt for Red October, as far as I know, was
Mhm.
John Milius. But Peter Boyle as the slimy like manager, basically of the mining colony, he's I mean, he's Peter Boyle. He's good at being a dickwad for sure, and he does it pretty well. So
Yeah.
it's not a bad movie. It's just I found myself just kind of like checked out a little bit, just like, well, that was the moviest movie that ever movied.
Mhm. I mean, yeah, sounds kind of interesting. I mean, you're certainly not selling it very well, but,
Well, like
I
this,
mean,
I blind bought it, Brad. Like I was
yeah.
interested, like everything on paper and like the few images I had seen of it. I mean, this fucking box art, Brad. Like, well, that's you. I need me. Get out of here, Brad. This fucking box art. I used to walk by this VHS, and it was just a rectangular version of this, and it looks great. It's like
Mhm.
Sean Connery with a good toupee with a shotgun in space. What
Yeah.
more do you need? And then I found out a little bit more about it. I was like, oh, Peter Hyams, I like him. Oh, like I think like award-winning production designer people working on the thing. Oh, hey, we got a fucking movie on our hands. And then I watch it. I'm just like, it's yeah, one and done. It's like I don't think I would need to ever watch it again unless I was doing research, unless I
Yeah.
was planning to do like a spotlight month on Peter Hyams or Sean Connery or something.
Mhm. Yeah, if you're gonna do a full Hyams deep dive,
Yeah,
then yeah.
I would include it in there if only to piss off Kyle because he'd probably be bored as shit watching it.
Well, is that I think we got a message, from Kyle there. Is that,
Oh, incoming message from the big giant head. I'll have to check that out. 1 second
yeah.
here. In space, no one can hear your shotgun.
Good. That's
No,
good.
I mean you can't hear much of anything in space now, can you? Um, yeah.
Are
Okay.
they
Well,
yeah, that's good a question. What's how are they wearing? Because he's not wearing any sort of, space suit.
that is one thing that I can in the plus column of the construction of the film. I can say that they do treat it as a hard sci-fi film, where they do treat the vacuum of space as a volatile environment. Like there's a
Okay.
lot of lip service paid to airlocks and the need for safety protocols and things of that nature. That image of him holding the shotgun, that's all within the confines of the colony. But they do like spacewalks and stuff where they're like fully kitted out in suits and stuff. And I don't remember if they mute the audio when they're out in space. They very well may, but the special effects in the movie and the production design, they spared no expense. Like it looks pretty dang good for its era.
Mhm.
Um, but I I know I'm like all over the place in my description of this thing. Like I'm complimenting it and then slapping it across the face immediately after that. I'm drunk dadding this, but you know, the fact of the matter is, it was fine,
Yeah.
but it's just not worth another watch for me at this point in my life.
Hey, I mean, you've only got so much time left. If you don't feel like you gotta watch it, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I get old enough, Brad. Mission Impossible 2 very well may fall out of that rewatch like
Mhm.
queue because
Yeah.
it's on the bubble. Just say that much. I'm getting old, man.
My last 2 times through the franchise before this one, it had fallen out, but this time it got brought back in. So next
Okay.
two, it'll probably be out again, and then
See, I had the excuse of having to introduce it to the girlfriend.
yeah.
She hasn't seen any of them, but we watched Fallout last week, so we got through all of them.
Hmm.
But I was like, I don't really want to rewatch Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah. Yep.
But she hadn't seen it before, and she's a little bit younger than me, so the year 2000 in a bottleness of that movie, I was like, she'll probably get a kick out of this, just out of the fact that, like, when I think about that year, I also think about that movie, just because all the aesthetics of it, everything about it, just makes me think of the year 2000.
My justification was because I didn't think I had logged it on Letterboxd. Like I thought it was a pre-Letterbox the last time I had watched it, and then I watched it, sat through the whole movie, hated every second of it. Although I did, the motorcycle chase is okay, but I hated pretty
It's
much everything
okay.
besides that. And then I go to log it, and oh, I know I had watched it. It was already logged, so it was a complete and total waste of time.
Yeah, we'll get off Mission Impossible, but I would like to point out that the girlfriend had a note that never occurred to me. After watching the first two, she was like, "These movies are really misogynist." I was like, "Yeah, De Palma and women,
Yeah,
that's a subject." It's
I
like,
think
yeah,
two's pretty bad. I mean, in
two
that
is
regard,
real
yeah,
bad. The situations that she's put in, it's like, yikes.
yeah.
Then feel better. Jesus Christ. Yeah, go fuck this guy that you're totally terrified of. Do it for your country. Oh, wait, you're not from America. Wait,
Yeah.
how does that work? Anyway, that's enough out of me in Outland, whatever the fuck that was. Brad, what is your next one and done pick?
My next one and done is a movie that technically I have seen this twice, but I'm counting it as a one and done because the last time I watched it, it was a rental from the video store. And this time I did purchase it, even though I knew I wasn't a big fan of it. But I said, if I'm gonna rewatch this movie, I got to do it on 4K. Like it came out on 4K, I gotta go all in. And I watched it, and I think I'm pretty much set on this movie for life. It's kind of a two and done, but physically on owning something, it's a one and done. And it actually connects to my last pick. So Roar, shot by cinematographer, and I correct me if I'm saying the name wrong, Jan de Bont. Is
Oh,
that correct?
from the Netherlands, Jan de Bont. Yeah,
Jan de Bont,
yeah.
who then went on to direct at least one amazing film in Speed,
Mm-hmm.
and filmography that would progressively get worse and worse, and
It's
maybe hit the bottom of the barrel with The Haunting. The
Ah!
Haunting.
It
Yeah.
happened.
So this one, so main reason I purchased this is on my show, Trevor, but for those who don't know, I do a thing called Movie Roulette, where we have a randomized movie assignment every week. And, my show is always a rotating assortment of guests. So it's generally like they get one random movie a month. I get one random movie every week that I'm forced to watch. And somehow we landed on The Haunting for one of them. And I said, listen, I got to go all in because I got to give this movie its fair shake. I can't watch it on Max. I can't stream it. The picture quality drops on Max so easily. I can't do it. So I said, I got to buy the 4K, go all in. And I can say that I don't know how it would have been on Max, but I don't think the 4K really helped at all because this movie I just am not a fan of at all. And I talk about it in my most recent episode that it's not out yet, but I'll just say that one thing in this movie, and I don't say this in a mean way. I have to be honest. The main character, the actress Lily Taylor, I just am not a fan of her. I'm sure she's a great person, but I think she is so obnoxious. I think she's so bad in this movie, and she really care is like whole movie is on her shoulders, and she just does not step up to the task. I'm not a fan of her in this. The effects are horrible, horrible. Like, I mean, not even like, yeah, of course they look bad, like the CG looks bad, but even just like some of the like conceptual ideas of what they do with the effects are just stupid. Why? How is it scary? A character walks up to a door and the door transforms into a giant hand that flicks them away. What is scary about that? It's like just effects for the sake of effects. Do not age well. We get into it, very low body count, like just lame. I don't know. I will say, in some ways, I respect the conceptual idea of making this an effects heavy movie, like because the original Haunting, which I have seen and I do like quite a bit, is known for like not showing anything. And so, it's like, okay, if we're gonna remake The Haunting, let's go the opposite route and show everything. It's like, okay, at least that's a new take. It's an idea, but it does not play well at all. And watching it, I kept thinking, man, this is very similar to Stephen King's Rose Red, the miniseries, which is probably not great, but I have a soft spot for, and I think is better than this. And little did I know, reading IMDb trivia, apparently Stephen King wrote a draft of this screenplay, and he took it and then turned it into Rose Red. So um, that's why it feels like I'm like, man, Rose Red ripped off of this movie. And I'm like, oh, actually, even though Rose Red came out later, I mean, it's kind of like, did this movie rip off Rose Red? Either way, it's like Rose Red rocks, and this movie stinks. But I'm glad I got it on 4K, gave it its fair shake, and didn't come with a slipcover, which was disappointing. But I don't think it ever came with one. I don't think it was printed with one. So anyway, it's not good.
I am I am so excited to hear you talk at length about The Haunting on the
Yeah.
Cinema Speak podcast. As soon as that came up via the wheel, I was like, "Holy shit!" Because The Haunting is terrible.
Mhm.
It like a like Sphere is one of those 90s thrillers that for some reason, like expensive 90s thrillers that for some reason I saw a lot, like a lot. I think The Haunting, very obviously, a lot of it had to do with Catherine Zeta-Jones and The Mask of Zorro and that and Entrapment and all that. Basically, that those three films were very important, a very formative stage of my upbringing. And The Haunting, that certainly was a big selling point, as was CGI. Just in general, that was the point. That was the moment in film history where you could sell a movie strictly on the promise of CGI, like, and that film had it in spades. I believe Jan de Bont, like, did he also do Twister? That was probably just before, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so it worked before. Why not do it again? And of course, you have some decent trailer shots, albeit kind of questionable ones, like the statue in the fountain grabbing Liam Neeson and then doing exactly nothing with him.
Hmm.
Like, it barfs blood on him, but that's like, you're cool, bro. Like, I just wanted to spook you. It's like, you go on, you go about your business. It's like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, and we kind of like, after we recorded talking about this movie, I felt like I was pretty lenient on it, pretty fair, and I think I was maybe overly fair, but listening back, I'm like, okay, we did dunk on this pretty hard, actually. Like,
It
you,
deserves it.
yeah, like just the concept of the ghosts. It, I mean, which you can just go with whatever, but like conceptually, it's like why are the ghosts doing this? Because there's no reason. It's just like, I don't know. It's not good.
That movie has some of the most annoying things I've ever encountered in movies. Eleanor, no, no, like this fucking ghost kids. And then,
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of the effects are kind of spotty. Like, in particular, I remember seeing a lot of like evening magazine type TV programs, like spotlighting the making of that movie when it was coming out. Like they were really drumming up a lot of hype for it. In particular, the spikes coming down on the bed frame.
Yeah,
That
that's
effect looks terrible in the. Oh, I'll give you the single, Brad.
yeah. If you can see, yeah, it's featured there on the back of the 4K.
Yeah, yeah. That
That's it,
moment
right?
is for some reason like regarded as iconic, but
Oh, maybe that's
it looks like ass. I think that's when the ghost kid is like farting around under her sheets, probably
maybe. Yeah,
literally.
yeah,
But there's also the bit where the spikes come down from the ceiling,
yeah.
and it's done with a combination of CGI and physical props, and it looks jank as fuck. And then like the big kicker though is like one very small body count. That's like you gotta give me something. Like Twister, at least you get to see an SUV go like you get to see somebody get impaled, and then you get to see an SUV smash head first in the ground. That's something. And then a
Well,
dude gets hit with a hubcap in the face or something. You know that's something.
I mean, the fact that the caretaker survives to the end of the movie, it's like, what? Huh?
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean, you get
kill
the
him.
lady getting hit with the garrote wire early in the film. It's like that's an excuse to remove people from the premises, but it's like you could have just killed them too, you know? Like, but
Yeah,
no, I need to drive her to the hospital. It's like, okay, on Earth, no one else has the haunting fork.
yeah. I mean, the problem is that it was originally released, the Paramount Presents on Blu-ray, and I didn't buy the Blu-ray from Paramount Presents, and then it came out on 4K through Scream Factory. So if I had, been assigned this movie earlier, I would have just had it on Blu-ray. Now I got it on 4K. Um, the 4K looked all right, but
So,
yeah.
whoa! You mean Scream Factory had to negotiate for the haunting?
Apparently, I don't know if it's like a pack. It's weird because it's literally, I think it's like all the extras are the same. I don't know why Paramount didn't just release it on. Maybe the Blu-ray sold so poorly that they said let's just try and give this to Scream Factory. I don't know, but it is
Yeah,
weird
maybe
that
it was a package deal where it's like,
yeah,
hey, you want to take this off our hands? We don't have any plans for
because
it.
their Paramount Presents Blu-rays have a pretty cool slipcover. I don't know, like, do you know what I'm talking about? Where they like the slipcover has like an outer, like
No, I don't think I actually have any of
hang
theirs,
on.
but I know you're kind of high on them a little bit.
Like here's the Fatal Attraction Blu-ray from Paramount Presents. Like it's a slipcover, and then the slipcover also pops open, and it's got the
Oh,
poster.
I
Like,
like it.
kind of cool. Like, and I'm pretty sure The Haunting had this as well. So it's weird that um that they would release it on 4K so soon afterwards,
Hmm.
and that Paramount Presents wouldn't put it out on 4K themselves. I don't know. It's strange.
Well, in the words of Garth Brooks, I like that. Yeah, I like the Paramount Presents packaging, but yeah, the haunting is awful, and then you get to that final reel, and I it's so bad that Kyle and I had to yell about it on our podcast probably a couple of times at this point, and I actually made a clip of us yelling about it to promote our fucking podcast. I never do that, but it was just like it. It's so bizarre and just terrible. Where the Lily Taylor character, like, just I think they must have picked up some of those pages that Stephen King left them or something, because her character just transforms at the drop of a hat, and the things that come out of her mouth are just like complete nonsense. It's like, I don't know what we're doing anymore. We're just
Mhm.
it's just like it's with sound now, and the hope that somebody watching this will form an emotional connection because somebody's making faces and yelling. Like, pay no mind to the words coming out of her mouth, because not any of it makes like a sense. It's about family. It's always been
Yeah.
about family.
Yep.
God.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
anyway,
I was hoping on a rewatch I would actually like it because I do, partly because of Rose Red. I'm like, I genuinely like this kind of film. And I had watched it at a young age, and I'm like, I know everybody hates it, but I might actually like it. And nah, it's nah.
well, I think I could be wrong, but I think the Rose Red Mansion is actually in my neck of the woods.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Is it? Seattle or Portland where Rose Red takes place?
I think it might be Seattle.
Is it Seattle? That sounds right, 'cause
Yeah, I have a friend who's really into horror media, and I remember them telling me that around the time that TV movie came out.
I love Rose Red.
Yeah, they were a big fan of it too. I
It's
actually
been a
haven't seen it.
while, but yeah.
Okay, well, that's enough of the haunting. I really am looking forward to listening to you and your buddy talk some shit about the haunting. But I suppose the pick is to me. So I'm gonna disclose this one before I hold it up, just because I don't want to completely embarrass myself. Brad, on your wheel, did you did you have a Vestron pick recently?
Pretty recently, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember when, but, we reviewed something a few weeks ago, and I think
You
something
haven't
got
talked about
assigned.
it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's on the horizon. The Wraith.
Yes, yes. I
Okay,
don't
well
remember who,
that
but
is my
somebody
pick.
got that.
That is my pick. So, Brad, the way he sets up his wheel is he has publishers and distributors like Vestron or Vinegar Syndrome or Criterion, what have you, and then he goes by the spine number basically. And it just so happens that somebody got Vestron recently, and somebody got the Wraith recently, which happens to be one of exactly two Vestron video Blu-ray discs that I own. Now, the reason I own this is one of the dumbest reasons imaginable. Has nothing to do with the film itself, really. So this film was marketed heavily off of the strength of its soundtrack, which does feature Ozzy Osbourne, but more importantly, features a hair metal band by the name of Lion, who, as far as I understand, at least in the United States, I can't speak for internationally, but I believe in our region, they were popular, maybe not even actually popular, but relevant. Let's say relevant for a couple years, like 1986, 1984 to 1986. Let's say that. So they had a song in Friday the 13th Part 4. It's the Crispin Glover dance scene.
Mm,
Love is a Lie is the name of that song. They did the title theme for the Transformers the movie, the animated movie from 1986, and they did a song called "Never Surrender." Very, very hair metal for this film, The Wraith. I don't think they made it for the film, but it's in the film. It does play over a car chase sequence, which is basically what this movie is: car chase the movie, with a sci-fi twist. This movie is borderline incomprehensible. It is boring as sin when there aren't cars on camera, and it doesn't bode well for the film when I don't give two fucks about cars. Like, I'm not a car guy. I love stunts, I love action, I love violence and stuff, but car stuff, it's like, unless it's the French Connection or Bullet or Ronin or something like that, unless it's like one of the super famous car chases in cinema history, it's just not something I pop for generally. Um, so this was a movie that I bought entirely off of the strength of the inclusion of the Lion song that I happen to really, really like. I really like the song no, Never Surrender. And I knew that it was listed on the soundtrack for this film because when I stumbled across that song, the MP3 file or whatever I had for it had the cover art for this film attached to it. And I was like, what is that film? And then many years down the line, Vestron puts out this Blu-ray, and I'm like, you know what? That's a dumb enough reason to open my wallet and buy a fucking Blu-ray. So I bought it, I watched it, and I'm never gonna watch it again because it sucks. It's not very good, and Charlie Sheen is not. He's not Charlie Sheen in it. Like, he's not doing anything particularly interesting. I think like there are some decent acting performances in this. I think it's is it Nick Cassavetes, the
mhm.
dude from Face Off, who gets shot in the neck. He plays like one of the chief antagonist type characters in this, and I think Clint Howard is in here doing Clint Howard shit. Um, but yeah, this is just one of those movies that I own for the dumbest of fucking reasons, and I'll very likely never watch it again.
Can
I
we
listen to
get?
that song a lot, though. I listen to that song all the fucking time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I mean, can we get? There's like 4 or 5 artists listed on the cover there. Can you get a close up on those artists here,
Yes,
just
yes,
to see what
yes.
the selling points are here?
Whoop.
Okay, we got Billy Idol, Robert Palmer, Ozzy Osbourne, and Motley Crue. Okay, all right.
See, Lion didn't even make the cover.
Yeah. Now, personally,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to get into anything music and disparage any tastes.
I know your feelings on this subject.
Well, actually, it was that those 4 are stronger than I thought, or than I remembered, or what Billy Idol. I'll go to bat for Billy Idol, and Ozzy Osbourne. I'm not like a huge fan of, but I mean, you can't hate on Ozzy. You gotta love Ozzy.
Yeah, he's an
Um,
institution.
Motley Crue, though, I absolutely hate. So
Yeah, they have like one or two that I can get behind, then the rest of it's like, nah, I'm good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I know they got a lot of fans, so I don't want to,
No,
disparage them too much, but not for
not
me. Not for
not
me.
anything we need to go in depth about, but I am aware through like things that you've said over the years that like hair metal, arena rock, it's not really your jam.
Not at all. Not
Exactly.
at all.
So I'm curious how, like, given my reaction to this film, like, given that that was a positive for me, I'm curious what your reaction to this film is going
Yeah,
to be.
yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I bet.
I actually had kind of high-ish, not high, but just it's got a pretty well-known cast, well-known soundtrack. I was like, oh, this could be a upper tier Vestron release, but sounds like it's not.
I mean, I only own two, and I would put it at number two of the two that I own. The other one is Extreme Prejudice, which
Hmm.
is pretty much just a remake of the Wild Bunch, with a pretty incredible cast. Though I'll give it points for that. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'll let you hold your comments on the Wraith for when you inevitably do have to watch it, so we
Okay.
could move on and go to your next pick, Brad.
Well, speaking of Vestron Video,
Yeah.
Vestron starts with the letter V. You know what else starts with a V? Vinegar Syndrome. And they are like we kind of mentioned, they're a label where, unlike Olive Films, I might buy something they put out that I've never heard of before, just because, like, oh, this sounds interesting. It's in the line of what they do that I think I would enjoy. So I would say 95% of the Vinegar Syndrome titles I buy are blind buys. Like very rare, like Texas Chainsaw 2, and that might be it that I can think that I've seen before, surprisingly. But uh, when I first started getting into Vinegar Syndrome, I also didn't totally have my tastes calibrated, I guess, and really kind of know what they were going for. So when you're going on their site and you're like, I hear about this label Vinegar Syndrome. Let me check it out. Let me see what they do. And you see a movie that seems like it has a little bit of pedigree behind it, because it has at least a couple recognizable actors. And conceptually, it's in a genre that you maybe enjoy. You might pull the trigger on it, like I did with this one, and watch it and realize that it's pretty much garbage and one of my least favorite releases of theirs. And I don't think I'd ever watch it again. It is the film, let me give you a year on it, from 1991. We have Dolly Dearest. Dolly Dearest, which was an early Vinegar Syndrome purchase for me. I don't think it was the very first, but it was, maybe it was in the first batch I ever bought. I don't know, but um, the one thing with Vinegar Syndrome is that they count the slipcovers on their site, how long slipcover lasts, so you can keep track. And if you've got FOMO, it's very enticing because something gets below 100 copies, you might end up just paying full price because you don't want to miss out on that sweet slipcover. And this one, surprisingly, the slipcover lasted a long time. So not surprisingly, I should say. But I do like these like killer doll movies generally. I like just the Seeing how they pull it off effects wise, whether it's stop motion, having a little person running around in a suit or something, like how they manage to make it seem like a killer doll is actually alive. Um, I really don't remember any of the kill. Like this movie was in one ear out the other, in one eye out the other. I don't remember much about it. The two recognizable actors, you got Rip Torn in here, classic, and the mom from Pet Cemetery is the main character, the mom in this. But it's not good. I think they moved to, is it Mexico? Yeah, they moved to Mexico. I think there is like some sort of burial ground or something. I don't know. It's boring. It's not good. And even worse is that there's only 2 interviews on here, so it's like not even that great of a release by Vinegar Syndrome.
Huh. Is it
So
early or something?
no, I don't think it's that early. It's spine number 315.
Oh.
So it is within the last few years, but I can't say it was like terrible, but it's just dull, not that interesting. Um, maybe I'd revisit it because I don't remember anything about it. So it's almost like it's a first time watch. But what can you do? It was, I'm glad I have it as part of my Vinegar Syndrome collection. You got that sweet slipcover, got that great logo up there. It's embossed, oof, that feels good. I gotta say, and that is apparently the logo. That is a good logo. Okay. I'm gonna walk that back. The Dolly is amazing. The Dearest, the font, the color of the font, the Dearest is no good, but the Dolly is great. I love the Dolly. The Dearest, I'm not crazy about the font choice on Dearest. I have to be honest.
Yeah, I follow. Like
Yeah, but the
I agree.
Dolly rocks.
Yeah, with the block motif and the like the misaligned letters, there's inspiration there, the choice of colors. But yeah, the Dearest feels like it's like an erotic thriller or something.
Yeah, the Dearest. I'm assuming they're going after like a blood sort of thing, but just I don't know. But
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. But yeah, it's funny. The only way I'm familiar with that movie is Brandon Tenold on YouTube. He's a Canadian bad movie reviewer, very charming fella, nice sense of humor. He reviewed that, and it did sound pretty fucking dull. Um,
yeah,
by the way, I'm not a Trekkie or a Trekker, but Denise Crosby, I
mm,
think, is the mom from Pet Cemetery. She was part of the Next Generation cast, but then she demanded, I think she requested to be killed off, and then she came crawling back because that was when the show wasn't good just yet.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, she pops up in some of the damnedest places. But yeah, it didn't sound particularly interesting. And because of that, I'm going to bounce off of the movie directly and ask you about something like tangentially connected to the film instead. Um, when you say killer doll movies, I assume Child's Play is like, the the gold standard, basically, at least at least in terms of mainstream popularity. But like, would like the Puppet Master films or any of those other Charles Band movies dealing with like miniatures, something or others, are those like too small to like require the kinds of effects that you like? Where it's like, because in the case of Child's Play, they had to use a combination of like animatronics and hand puppets and also just little people
Mm-hmm.
wearing doll costumes and stuff. Whereas like Puppet Master, it's like stop motion puppets or bust. That's all we got.
No, I would still include that in the, it's just back in the day, especially like an interesting like how those effects would be created. Like it essentially following a slasher formula, but you at least have that um level of interest there. So yeah, I would include. I haven't seen Puppet Master, but I would include it. Dolls. Dolls is another classic. I got that back here somewhere, I believe.
That's like
Do-
a
Dolls.
that's like a Stuart Gordon or something or other,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep. Um, Surprisingly, not as many dolls as you would expect.
Some neat effects in that one though. I've seen clips
Yeah.
from it. Some
Mhm.
really cool stop motion stuff. And I know Charles Band is like Full Moon Features. He's kind of like known for his preoccupation slash fixation on the concept of killer little whatsits, like be it demonic toys, I think Doll Man versus demonic toys, or Puppet Master versus demonic toys.
Mhm.
If it's a munchkin like something or other that can stab you in the shins, he's probably made it. But
Yeah.
maybe that's a project for you someday, Brad. Like devote a month to watching killer doll movies or something.
Yeah, I'm looking up, a list here, and, surprisingly, there's not as many as you would think, actually.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. That's what makes it like feasible to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tackle something like that. Is
I
like
mean,
it's not
Dolly
nice.
Dearest was the 3rd one listed, so that
Yeah,
tells you that who the fuck knows about Dolly Dearest, so
exactly. Like that's somewhat obscure
yeah.
in an already obscure subgenre. So it's doable, especially if you like, instead of like trying to watch all of those fucking Puppet Master movies, just like watch quote the good ones, or maybe just the
Oh, yeah.
first one or something.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, maybe a project for a different day. But I forget. And Dolly Dearest isn't like the thing that often comes up in those kinds of movies, probably because of the way Child's Play was structured, is is the doll actually doing the thing? Like, is that part of the plot in that movie? I seem to remember that being like part of it, where it's like, is it actually a killer doll? Like, I don't
I'm sure
know.
it's gotta be, I mean,
It's a really common trope in that
yeah,
subgenre. Again, Child's Play was kind of a big deal, still kind of is, honestly.
yeah, but, I mean, I would give it, my highest recommendation if you're looking for something to help you take a nap. That is for sure.
uh, Thanks for that, Brad. Okay, well, I suppose the pick goes to me, so I'm gonna, hard to reach. Okay, so I'm going to change it up a bit, uh, and do what I do and cheat a little bit, by spotlighting multiple movies in one go, because these all fit into a theme of sorts, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So, the concept of blind buying has been something that has come up in conversation a few times up to this point, and it's not something that works for everybody. Like, I know there's lots of people out there who would would never dare to buy something that they hadn't seen before. Like they would need to vet it before they'd let it take residence on their
Get
shelf.
real that pisses me off. Get
Yeah,
real.
me too. Me too, Brad.
Like, come on.
Explain where that comes from.
Well, it's just like, take a chance. You got one life to live. Like, you don't like it, you can sell it. If you don't like it, throw it in the trash. But, I mean, I guess maybe if you're really tight on space, you wouldn't, but, like, yeah, vetting, like, there's so many of these movies too that I mean, I guess, if you're looking at just mainstream movies, yeah, most like that stuff, yeah, you can rent it or stream it, whatever. But like some of these like small movies that these like, boutique labels are putting out, like you're only going to be able to get them through there. Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Let me see if Dolly Dearest is streaming anywhere, but like the perfect example, this homegrown horrors set.
Yeah,
Actually, no,
yeah.
this isn't a perfect example because actually Vinegar Syndrome put all these on Shutter, so it's a bad example. But just there's a lot of these movies that only these labels are putting out, and otherwise you have to resort to potentially uh, irredeemable means.
Yeah.
But
Shifty means, if you will.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like you just you know live a little. Jeez.
Well, I mean, I don't want to make this into a whole big thing, but like everybody's media diet is handled differently. Like there's a lot of people out there who, if it's on the front page, the landing page of Netflix or Apple TV or whatever streaming service they have, they'll watch it. It's like if
Mhm.
Sandra Bullock's in it, they'll watch it. It's like if Gal Gadot's in it, they'll watch it. It's as simple as that. Whereas I can't speak for you, Brad, but for me, it's like it is a it is an arduous journey to hitting the play button on anything for me. Like I got to feel good about what I'm going to put on. I very very seldom absentmindedly put on a movie. Like
Yeah.
TV, that's different. Like I have watched many a Seinfeld rerun on cable. I'll tell you that much. I have watched many a Simpsons rerun and many King of the Hill rerun, many King of Queens rerun back in the day. But when it comes to movies, I am very intensely selective, and it comes from like habit, like decades of habit. Because like I'm gonna run with this for a second here, Brad. So I apologize, but like for me, like my journey into physical media came from import movies, from discovering that not if the TV and the blockbuster were not my only options. Like I was probably 12 or 13, maybe even 11 when I came to realize, oh wait, like if I put in the legwork, if I do some digging, I can find things that I'm interested in. And it's something that I've been doing since then. Like I went to a comic book and card shop because my parents were at Costco and my grandma was in town and she wanted to spend time with me and she knew I was bored at Costco. So we went across the street to a comic book and card shop and I was farting around looking at stuff and they had some bootleg, like very clearly shit quality bootleg VHS copies of Godzilla movies from the 90s, which would not find their ways to American soil until probably like Godzilla 2000, around the time of that film. So for me, this was a revelation. It was like, hang on, they kept making Godzilla movies after 1985? What? And so of course I begged my grandma. I was like, I gotta get one of these, and she got it for me, and it was absolute shit quality. Everything was gray and muddy, and the subtitles were of questionable quality. But I had this magical movie in my possession that nobody I knew even knew existed. And ever since then, like I've always kind of had that instinct to go off the beaten path, which brings me to talking about the shit ass movies I currently have in my lap. So, um, in more recent years, so like many years removed from my Godzilla movie obsession and stuff, I'm still really into Godzilla, but um, in more recent years, like since like college or so, really been into martial arts cinema. And there's a thing that happens in martial arts cinema where there's the hunt for the new guy, like the hunt for the next big thing. And Brad, have you ever run into this in like your media diet? Like, have you ever found yourself like checking out certain actors or certain directors because you have a feeling that, like, almost like a gambler or something? It's like, I'm going to bet on this guy. I think he's going to be something. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
got a feeling about that dog.
Yeah. I don't know if I would ever say like I'm the one pushing that forward, but
Yeah, yeah.
hearing buzz about somebody, yeah, it's definitely, gotten me to go, check somebody out.
Yeah, no, I would never be the guy pushing the agenda either. But similar to what you just said, I've definitely been that guy who's heard the buzz and been curious, like wanted keyword wanted to get on that wave. Like Scott Adkins is a perfect example of that. Like for me, I've been he actually is one that I've been championing because I caught on to him really really early. But these guys, these are not my guys. These are not my kind of guys. In the words of Mister Costanza, this guy is not my kind of guy. So these were fellas who I went out of my way to buy import Blu-rays from Hong Kong, shipped from Hong Kong, from a warehouse in Hong Kong, because at the time of their release, they weren't available in the States. And it just so happens they're also Region A. And Hong Kong Blu rays do generally come English subtitled, of questionable quality oftentimes, but still subtitled. So it's very feasible to buy import films and actually watch them. Um, so these guys are Mac Zhang, who I have here, uh, The Brink, which I will admit the cover art for it actually does look pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Um, he is the blonde gentleman with the kind of like red pants.
Mhm.
Um, and Invincible Dragon, and he is once again the fellow with his back to us with the tattoos on his back. Max Zhang, I believe the story goes he was a stunt double for Michelle Yeoh. And at some point, as Donnie Yen and Jackie Chan and Jet Li, everybody started aging out. And Wu Jing, like, he's too busy making Wolf Warrior movies and the Meg 2 and shit. Like, at some point, some producer decided, hey, this Max Zhang guy, he's talented. Let's give him a go. Let's make him a leading man. I, I haven't found it yet. Like he's talented for sure. He has a great look, but as an actor and as like an impactful like practitioner of martial arts on film, I just don't think it's. I don't think he's got it. And similarly, um, we have I don't even remember this guy's name. Fuck, Philip. I don't actually know how to pronounce his last name. It's spelled Ng. He is the fella on the left side of the screen, and Andy Owen is the one on the opposite side. He also, I believe, was a largely a stunt performer rather than actor, and also I have here Undercover Punch and Gun. That is a title. God damn it! He's the fella in the center with the pistol. Philip. Again, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Uh, he's got the goods for sure. He's got the moves. Can't act worth shit, and he's not. He lacks charisma. Like, he's a charisma vacuum. And similarly, I have here Karate Kill, which again somebody had fun painting that for sure. Lovely cover, but it is a beyond low budget film with exactly like one or two decent fight sequences. The fella who's cast in the starring role of this is a Japanese fellow by the name. I think he just goes by the name Hayate. Um, it has like exactly one decent fight sequence, and then beyond that, it's like this. Just, I don't think it's there, man. Like stick to getting kicked by handsomer people who are better at this than you. Like, not to be mean, but it's just like not everybody can carry a film, and these are lessons learned from like the 1980s and 1990s era of Hollywood, where in the post Schwarzenegger years, it's like, oh hey, he's a foreign guy with muscles. Let's give him a try. And then you
Mhm.
learn, oh wait, not everybody's Arnold, not everybody's JCVD. Like, Dolph Lundgren's good, but he's not. I wouldn't put him on the same level as those two guys. Um, so yeah, those were just failed experiments on my part, where it's like, let's give it a shot. Let's see what they're all about. It wasn't for me.
Did any of them, like, have, did any of them get bigger out of this, or are they all kinda just, like, not really go
Uh,
anywhere?
I don't think they got bigger. They still get leading roles from time to time. Max Zhang in particular seems to be doing just fine. Like, I think he just had a trailer come out, maybe even today, for a movie that he's headlining. Again, he's got a good look about him. Like, he has other things going for him. Um, but the other folks, no, as far as I can tell.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, certainly, you would know more about this than I do, but, your skills as a performer, can only take you so far. It also, if you're not in movies that are good, I mean, that could kill you right there. You could be the best performer around, but if your movie around you is mediocre at best, it's
Well,
gonna be tough to really break out, I guess.
I mean, it's the Steven Seagal effect. Like
Mhm.
if you look at him, his career, he had maybe one of the easiest launches for any acting career, honestly. Like he had an entire film built from the ground up to highlight his strengths and hide his weaknesses. Above the Law uh, really was built from the ground up to just deliver him to the public in a like wrapped with a pretty bow on top. And then if you look at like most of his films, like in his actual successful stage of his career, a lot of it had to do with just the quality of the filmmaking around the man supporting him. These guys actually have, like very good martial arts chops for sure, but there's a lot. There's an ungodly number of intangibles that go into being that kind of performer. Because like you can have the most beautiful form and most incredible athletic ability, but if you can't deliver it in an artistic manner that makes audiences react to you, then it just doesn't work. Like
Hmm.
there's actual acting that goes into the performing of like martial arts sequences in film, and it's a very specific art form that not everybody has. And Max Zhang, he has it for sure. I just don't think he can carry a film is all. Like he's always welcome to show up and be like a bad guy. In fact, I think he's a lot better at that, honestly. Like I've seen him do that in other films very, very well. In SPL 2, he cuts a mean figure wearing a suit and being a bad guy. But like headlining the Ip Man spin-off film Master Z, facing off against Dave Bautista, that movie's a fucking mess. It's like, I'll just say that much. It has some decent martial arts sequences, but just failure to launch is what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough about me rambling about my bullshit.
No, it's just interesting that, the more you entrench yourself in a certain genre or subgenre, like action films or horror films, like, you start to go for those, you know, those not I'm not saying they're B movies, but like, the B tier, then the C tier, and eventually you're watching some real low bar stuff. And I can attest to, some, horror films that I go down in the dumps for. But I think that's where you can really prove that you're a fan. Like if you're still interested in digging deeper and seeing how far you if you see how until you get into that molten magma core of the earth, see how deep you can go. Because for I get people that are just like into West, like they say, "Oh, I like westerns," and they see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's like, well, there's a lot more, and I'm not a Western guy. That's the thing. That's one I think we've both said that. Like we want to experience more, but I've maybe dug a little bit more of a hole. Like can at least plant an azalea bush in my hole, but not that deep.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So
it's an interesting experience. Like really digging into a genre. Like uh, somewhat off top. Well, actually, no, completely on topic because this is a movie that I will never watch again. I watched Lords of the Deep via Tubi the other
mm,
day because that movie just came out on Blu-ray, and I wasn't about to pay for that. I was reminded of its existence and then prompted to watch it without paying for it via legal means. Um, because Lords of the Deep, if you're not aware, it's kind of like the Lost movie among the vast ocean of underwater thrillers that came out in the year 1989. There was this phenomenon built around the upcoming release of The Abyss, James Cameron's The Abyss, that resulted in Deep Star Six, Leviathan, Lords of the Deep, The Rift, and at least a few other undersea adventure films coming out the same year as The Abyss, all in 1989. And Lords of the Deep was like the big one that I'd never seen. I knew about it. I kept it in the back of my mind for most of my life. And apparently it just got a Blu-ray release. I don't know who from, but it was like this week, I think. And I watched it, and it is a Roger ass Corman film. Like it is a Roger Corman ass film. He is even in the film, and it is not good. It is easily the least of all of those movies I just mentioned. Um, but yeah, that is also a movie I will not be watching ever again. And that is an example of me digging exceedingly deep into an exceedingly minuscule subgenre of film that would be undersea adventure films.
yeah, right now because you said it had just come out on Blu-ray. Shoutfactory.com exclusive and $30 for the Blu-ray of that. 30
I I
bucks.
just pinged you about that the other day, Brad. Like shit's expensive right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Weirdly expensive.
Yeah, and it's weird. Shout. I have a lot of their releases, but I also, their business model is not my personal favorite. Like, they have these website exclusive releases like this, and, just, like, there no bonus features. Like, this one at least has apparently the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode of Lords of the Deep, which is kinda cool. But nothing besides that, like, no commentary, no interviews, like, I mean, to be honest, like, a lot of these commentary tracks are just, you know, not even like film historians. Like a lot of these people are just like podcasters and YouTubers that know their stuff, and like they get hired on a lot of these commentary tracks. And I can't imagine their rates are that high because um what is it, Cat Ellinger? Again, I don't even know if, maybe they are a film historian, I don't know, but you start to notice, like, especially on, like, Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow and a lot of these commentary tracks, you think, "Who the hell is this?" There's a lot of crossover because they're people that are knowledgeable in film, and you pay them a little bit, you get a commentary track on your Blu-ray, it's at least something.
Yeah, no shade to them, but I have to imagine the Dead Meat podcast people probably pop up on a lot of those.
Mhm. Yeah.
They do good work. They do good work. But hey, maybe someday you'll get that gig, Brad. It's
Maybe, I
Dolly
mean, yeah.
Dearest. Maybe they'll reissue it. And you can just supply the commentary.
Yeah, there's like, somebody made a running joke. I think it's Kat Ellinger that she's just locked up in Vinegar Syndrome's basement, and they just have her doing commentary tracks all day because it's like every release is like new commentary from Kat Ellinger.
Jeez.
But
I mean, that's a sweet ass gig, I guess.
yeah, I
No,
mean, and
like
I did.
really.
She does have. I did look her up. She is the editor in chief of Diabolique magazine. So you know, she's at
She's
least
doing all right.
she's published at least.
Yeah, she's doing all right.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, Brad. Do you want to do one more pick, or do you want to call it good here? Because
I
that was a lot. I know.
I can do one more, I think. I can do
Okay,
one more.
let's do one more round. And what is your next pick, sir?
I'll keep the train going of connecting all of these. So my last one was a Vinegar Syndrome release. This next one is a Vinegar Syndrome partner label release. It is an AGFA release, American Genre Film Archive. And I will say that this is a film that I somewhat enjoyed. I didn't have a bad time with this. I don't really see myself watching it again. Certainly, I really don't see myself ever putting it on by myself and watching it. That being said, this would be a good one if you're having some people over for like a party or like a Halloween party. This would be a good one to put on because I think it would be fun. It is a SOV movie, shot on video movie. It is Scary Tales. Scary Tales, the classic, SOV Baltimore shot, Scary Tales.
I'm sorry, the cover just made me laugh.
Classic cover. Well, the funny thing is, wait until I show you what's underneath the cover because I remember. Do you remember this? You like were like dunking on this cover I'm about to show you. Do you remember this? What it looks like?
I don't. I
It's pretty
don't, but
good.
I'm bracing myself.
It's pretty good because I actually kind of like it because of how bad it is, to be honest. But this is the if you get it, because I think the slipcover is sold out. So if you buy it now, this is what you get. You get this. Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, it's bad, but I kind of dig it. I don't know. And I do like I think it's the only time I've seen a Letterboxd account get quoted on the
Holly
cover of
Horror
a
from
release.
Letterboxd.
Like, I don't think she has any association. Like, she's not like an editor at like she's just a user on Letterboxd that called it super charming.
Hey,
But I would agree.
that's an honor. You maybe you'll
Yeah.
get that distinction someday too.
And I would agree. It is very charming. It is a horror anthology film, and I'm guessing it was probably from, I would guess, the 90s, if I had to guess. Maybe the late 80s. I don't no, 93. Yeah, SOV movie, horror anthology. It's the kind of thing where, is it a good movie? No. I mean, it's very charming and inspiring in a way that it feels like as a group of people that are just, regular Joe Schmoes who wanted to make a movie. And how I don't they probably spent a good amount of time on this, but probably did it on weekends and made something that is, pretty good for what it is. Probably like no budget. Again, shot in, I believe it's Baltimore. So, outside of any sort of like, Hollywood system. And yeah, it's pretty fun. Like, for example, if I'm remembering correctly, I think this is the movie. There's a scene where like two characters meet up in a bar, and it's very clearly the bar is somebody's wood paneled basement that they sort of just like retrofitted to look like a bar. Like they just, built like a fake bar top, like with some wood in somebody's basement. And, it obviously looks, yeah, if this was in any like big budget movie, you'd be like, this is trash. But in something like this, it is fun and charming. And, I actually think there is some ambi- maybe not ambitious, but clever effects. Like clever and like, obviously they don't look good, but for making something with no budget, like just the idea of like probably like acknowledging like, okay, this doesn't look great, but we want to do this thing that is ambitious for a no budget movie to do. Let's still try and do it, and getting a kick out of seeing how they do that. The stories are okay. Like I will say, the last story in the anthology is something like it's like they are playing like some role playing game and they get transported back into like medieval times. Um, it's a little bit of a it's in terms of being an SOV movie and low budget, like cool how they're able to do something like that, period costumes, and there's some little bit of effort that has to be put into that, but I would say the final segment was kind of like not great for me. But it's fun. It's not something I would go out of my way to revisit, although it is only 70 minutes, which is nice. Um, but I have not really dipped my toes too much into the SOV pool. But that could be my as I continue to dig a deeper hole of horror. Like when you start getting into SOV, you're really the dirt is starting to get over your head. And there it's actually crazy how much these Vinegar Syndrome partner labels are putting out SOV titles, to the point it's like I don't even know where to begin. Like Agfa and another one, I don't own any of their releases, but Culture Shock. And although I think, Culture Shock, they might do a mix of, like, 16 millimeter and SOV, but, specifically Saturn's Core was the one I meant to say. Saturn's Core releases so much SOV stuff, and I have no idea if it's trash or I mean, I'm sure it's all kinda trash, but, like, is it actual trash or, like, fun trash? And, I don't even know where to begin with that, but, yeah, look up, if you're interested, all the SOV stuff that has been coming out on Blu-ray lately, and it's very cool. It's just like where to even begin. It's a whole new world.
Yeah, it kind of fascinating that we're starting to see quite a lot of those popping up, because I've noticed this too, that there's a lot of like beyond homegrown horror kind of stuff getting put
Mhm.
out that's like literally shot on shitio, um, not fit for distribution, and yet here we are. I wonder where that's coming from. Where it's like maybe it's like an exclusivity thing, or maybe there is like a growing market for this. Where I've mentioned this many times in discussions with you, that the red letter media ecosystem does seem to have some bearing on the titles that are receiving distribution these days. Like memeable cinema seems to have a
Mhm.
place in the physical media market right now, where it's like if it's arcane and memeable, it's perfect for making content off of. So maybe that's an aspect of it, where it's like if it's so obscure to the point that it literally doesn't even exist on film, like maybe it's like a super low investment that could be like pay off very handily or something for everybody involved. Like
Mhm.
not just the people printing the discs, but also just the internet and all of the people like content creators all around. There's a lot of it's a chain, like everything feeds into one another. So I have to imagine there's some aspect of that at play.
Yeah, and again, I haven't dipped my toes too much into the other things these SOV movies have to offer, but another one that I haven't purchased and I keep wanting to, it just keeps getting bumped off the list, is there's a movie that Agfa put out called Pathogen. And in terms of like an inspire like these movies as like inspiring movies because they're like made by just the common man. This one is made by the common, not I was going to say woman, but the common girl. This Pathogen movie, I guess it was made specifically, it was directed by a young high school girl over the course of like 2 or 3 years, and made just with her friends. And she's since had a bit of a career, like nothing insane, but just cool to see a movie shot and acted and done everything by high schoolers coming out on Blu-ray and, getting a special edition release, and, the filmmaker getting a career off of that. So I'm sure it must have had some sort of impact when it came out, like but yeah, so like just it's cool that these movies are getting releases, although it is funny that they do specifically say on the back here, notice this movie was shot on VHS and edited on tape. Please approach the technical quality of the transfers with empathy. Which is I like that. I like that.
I love the
Just
phrasing of that, with
head
empathy.
hedging their bets, like this isn't gonna look great, just
Yeah,
just so you know.
it's an explicit warning, just like this is gonna look like ass,
Yeah.
but don't
Yeah.
judge it too harshly. They
Yeah.
did their best.
But yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I'm glad I own this for sure. Like this should be a
Yeah.
fun one. Having some friends over around Halloween time, pop it on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, we gotta get you a Agfa ball cap or a toad or something, man.
Yeah, I did look on their website. I think they have like a T-shirt or something.
Yeah,
I might have to.
you
Yeah.
should rock one of those, man. Because like that kind of stuff, like if you find exactly the right one, can be extraordinarily charming. Just
Hmm.
see, especially if it's like a town or a community just trying their best or something. Like
Hmm.
there is like a golden ratio for like production quality and effort and ambition and stuff in order to get the correct mix for it to be entertaining. But when it hits just right, it's really special.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
just cool that we have people like Agfa doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. They put out some cool stuff. I gotta say that.
All right. Well, I don't have, man, I don't have like a whole lot to say about most of these picks, so I'm just gonna whip this one out. Excuse me while I whip this out. Uh, um, and also, I have one that does fit into the budget range that you just talked about, but in the interest of not being cruel, I'm not going to speak at length about that one.
Okay.
I'll just skim over it in the speed round, just to be cool about it. So I have here a. I think this is a. I think this is a Italian Blu-ray that I have in my hands here.
Mhm.
The only one I have. Not the only Blu-ray that I've bought from Italy, though. But I think this is an Italian Blu-ray, and it is all region, which is how I'm able to watch it. And this was for a movie that I blind bought off of the strength of a single clip I saw on the Twitter, I think. That was a bad move. Don't be careful. A single clip does not represent an entire film. Um, so this film is Dobermann, starring Vincent Cassel, Monica Bellucci, and Checky Cario. And it's directed by Jan Conan or John Conan. I don't know fucking French. Anyway, it's a French fucking film. And in case you didn't notice, those three names I just rattled off, minus the director, are really, really big fucking names. All three of them are very, very, very talented actors. But this movie is, I think, intentionally designed to be aggravating and disgusting to look at. Like I think it's meant to be grotesque in the way it's shot and edited. I'm pretty sure that was part of the mission statement. which is okay. I can get behind that. Like I've ingested art of that variety before, and I didn't throw up. Um, but yeah, this is a very strange like crime thriller movie. Uh, don't exactly have a good way to describe it, but it is hyper energetic and boring at the same time, which is a deadly combination. All credit to Checky Cario. He is phenomenal in this, as he often is in films. He plays a truly vile villain in this, as he often does, and does really well. Um, but beyond that, it's just like it has a weird start and stop rhythm to it, where it goes from these explosively energetic and wildly imaginatively shot sequences to just like people farting around, and like half of the runtime of this movie, if not more, is them like trapped in a nightclub basically. And you would think that would be interesting because it's like a police siege on a nightclub, but it just doesn't get there. And it's just a very strange movie to watch. I don't exactly have the words. I only did watch it the one time. I only planned to watch it the one time. um, but I'll just say that while it does have a handful of really amazing shots, and some interesting editing, and some decent performances as a film, it's just like, what are we doing, man?
I'm seeing reviews on Letterboxd saying it's very much a Tarantino inspired or Tarantino ripoff potentially. I don't know if that's true or.
I don't, I don't know if I got that vibe. It is talky in the way that a lot of post Tarantino, like post Reservoir Dogs, post Pulp Fiction movies kind of were, and it does have that like element of thinking it's cooler than it is. So yeah, that might be accurate. It has a French film put over it. Like there's a layer of French over it that maybe conceals that just a little bit.
Mhm.
But it's very much going for like a hyper stylized vibe. Only problem is it just doesn't nail the pacing, and it's wildly unfocused in aggravating ways. And I want to say part of there probably was some aspect of intentionality behind that, because it does feel like parts of this movie are tailor made to kind of piss you off on some level, which is a weird artsy fartsy move to make with your feature film. Um, but again, I've watched art like that before. I've attended performances like that before, and it didn't bother me then. But this one just didn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, pretty solid cast though. I mean,
Excellent cast.
was that a launch pad for the Vincent Cassel and Monica Bellucci, or were they?
I don't think it was a launch pad. Um, I don't know the timeline on them though, because they both have that Keanu Reeves vibe to them, where it's like they've
Mhm.
been around a lot longer than you might think.
Yeah.
Um, both of them actually. They're both incredibly talented actors. Um, I think the last time I saw Vincent Cassel, he was getting his ass kicked by Matt Damon. That's sad.
What was that at? I'm trying to think.
Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That must have felt weird for Vincent Cassel because he actually has a martial arts background.
Yeah.
He's like, really? Damon. Okay. It's like, make sure the check clears, Mr.
Yeah.
Greengrass.
You got to do it for the paycheck.
He's like, okay. Okay, let's do some of this acting shit.
Yeah.
You want to get nuts? uh, anyway, that was Doberman. I really don't have much to say about it. But here comes the part of Tales from the Shelf, where we do what we like to call the speed round, where basically we take all of the runner-ups, that is, the movies that we didn't spotlight in our back and forth conversation here, and we just kind of run through them real quick, just like give a little description and then move on. Brad, would you like me to go first while you gather up your stuff, or are you good to go?
I mean, I can go if you want me to. I'm ready.
Oh yeah, yeah, go for it, bud. I'll let you have the single here.
Yeah. I'll be quick with these. I don't have much to say. I've got the classic teen romance, The Fault in Our Stars. Why do I have this? Don't know. I haven't watched the Blu-ray. I was gifted this in a secret. Yeah, it was Secret Santa, but I was gifted the DVD of it Um,
Ew.
and yeah, this was post like it was known that I don't fuck with DVD. So it was kind of like an awkward thing. I like everybody in the room knew
uh,
except for the person who got it for me, I guess, and I had to pretend to like it. And so then even though I didn't really want the movie, I immediately went out and bought the Blu-ray just because it's like, well, I feel like I should.
the upgrade was worth it, huh?
Yeah, I was like, well, I feel like I should own it because they gifted it to me, but I'm not owning it on DVD. So,
Oh,
um,
I'm gonna pause you real quick, Brad. Just confession, because I know they don't listen to the podcast or watch the show. I did that with something my girlfriend's parents got me.
that's awesome. That
They
is
got me the
awesome.
Scott Adkins movie One Shot on DVD.
Hmm.
And I was like, thank you. Then I traded it for the Blu-ray.
Yeah, some people don't get it. You know, they
They don't
just
get it. They
yeah,
just don't. It's like, it's the movie, right? It's like, no, it's
yeah.
not. Anyway,
So I'm glad you've been in a similar
I
situation.
have.
Okay. I've got the movie from Kino, Cadillac Man with Robin Williams. Um, not that funny. The premise seems like it'd be like a kind of a almost a Big Trouble esque. It's about a guy who goes into a used car dealership, takes everybody hostage, and Robin Williams is the sleazy used car salesman who talks him down, and but it's not very intense, not very funny, pretty forgettable. Yeah, R.I.P. to the great, but that was not his greatest. We've got the American Horror Project Volume 1 from Arrow Video. Specifically, I've only watched one of these. Malatesta's Carnival of Blood is the one I will say is a one and done. It's not bad. It's actually got some good atmosphere, some good imagery for a very low budget shot outside of the Hollywood system movie, but probably not going to go back to it. I have this is one I might actually break the rule on because it is part of a franchise. Red Dragon, Red
Oh,
Dragon, which
yeah.
is pretty mediocre.
You're gonna watch that again.
That's fair. I
You're gonna
probably
watch that
will.
again. Trust me,
It
you're
just
gonna
the
watch it again.
thought is always like, man, Manhunter is so much better than this. It's like crazy how much better Manhunter is. Um, I have While We're Young, which is from Noah Baumbach. This was a blind buy. I generally like Noah Baumbach's stuff. This is I think maybe one of the only films of his I own, and it's probably my least favorite of his films. It didn't really work for me. And the last one from Cauldron Films is the Collingswood Story, which I'm glad I own this because it is a cool little oddity in that it is a um, quote unquote like screen life film, like Unfriended, but from like 2002. So like we're getting into like old school Windows. I don't know what Windows that would have been back then. I don't know, but
That like
um,
XP.
yeah, XP, like just it's a bit of a cool oddity to look at what computer screens looked like back then, and to have a film that was kind of ahead of its time in that way, and that now we've seen so many of these movies take place over screens. But the movie itself is kind of boring, like it's not great, but it is a cool little film to own, and one of only two Cauldron film releases I have, but I want to buy more, so I quite like the slipcover, and you got the pull out slipcover there. Like it's pretty good
That's a
package.
that's a really handsome package.
Yeah, I quite like it. So but yeah, the movie itself, yeah, but good release.
Yeah, they can't all be winners, but
Yeah.
that's neat. I don't think I actually have any Cauldron titles as of yet, but
Yeah, they're fairly new. They only got like 15 or 20 or something like that releases. So
damn.
yeah,
I mean, if that package is any indication of how they like the quality of their products, then I'll have to keep them in mind.
yeah.
Okay, so it falls to me to complete the speed round here. So I have a couple of titles here with the same star. It's kind of unfortunate, just registered with me as I picked them up. So I have here Shakedown, with Peter Weller and Sam Elliott in what is essentially like a Tango and Cash esque buddy cop film from a similar era. Uh, it's just it's just kind of like mid tier. Is this the problem? Like, there's nothing actually objectively wrong with it. It's just like unimpressive. And nor is either performer in like on the cover of that giving their best or given the best material to work with. So it's just kind of like not the sum of its parts, I guess, is where the disappointment comes in. And as a result, it's just like I don't think I need this ever again, which is kind of a bummer because that was a blind buy for me that I was kind of excited about because I really like both of them as performers, Peter Weller in particular. I also have The Man Who Killed Hitler and then the Bigfoot,
Mm.
which I've talked about on the podcast before, but Sam Elliott also headlines this film. Odd director who has very, very few credits to his name, at least as a director, as far as I know. But it has exactly one great scene at the dinner table when he's being talked to by the government agents. Sam Elliott sells the fuck out of that material. Like he really does some of that acting shit. But beyond that, it's not great. Decent showcase for Sam Elliott later in his career as an actor. Like it shows that he's got the goods still for sure. But as a film, it's just kind of like you see it once, and then beyond that, it's a trivia factoid. After that, it's like I seen that. It's like, oh, you're that guy, huh?
Yeah, basically everyone who I know is who has seen that movie is basically said, yeah, one and done. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I should have led with that. Is what I'm getting at. I have here another blind buy movie. This one actually produced by Charles Band. I just read that now off of the back. He came up a few times earlier tonight. Um, and literally the only reason I bought this was one, the premise and the star. We have Ghost Warrior from
Mm.
Kino, which has a decent painterly cover
Yeah.
and of course the slipcover. Nice
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hiroshi Fujioka. Funny enough, your buddies who saw Shin Kamen Rider in the theater, um, this fella played the original Kamen Rider
Oh, okay.
on the 1970s television
Yeah.
show. So he's kind of a big deal for me. Um, that movie's not very good. And yeah, it is very much produced by Charles Band. It's not very high budget. And also, it's very, very as a Japanese person, it's very, very odd seeing American media's representation of that culture from a bygone age, where it's like the exoticism is like dialed up to 11, and also like there's no fact checking going on. So it's just like, what is this? It's like, do they not know that like Japanese people exist and like they live in America? And like they speak English. It's like, do they not know that? Yeah. Anyway, I have an odd one that actually I will vow to rewatch if if the stars align and we get a sequel, which I seriously doubt we ever will. Um, the reason I say that is because this movie ends on a cliffhanger. It ends on a teaser for a sequel. I have Helios, which I wouldn't expect you to recognize any of the people on the cover of this, but it is a curious little film. Um, well, it's not little actually; it's an enormous film. So the cast members of this film are comprised of mainland Chinese, Hong Kong, and South Korean actors, like pretty big names from all of those regions, who bring box office numbers of their own from all their own respective cultures and whatnot. So this is like a cross cultural mega blockbuster movie that's dull as dishwater. It's like a political thriller with a couple of action sequences, but it ends on a teaser for like a sequel or something. Like it ends drumming up hype for a sequel that, as of yet, has never happened and very likely will not. Uh, I have a pair of not very good Jackie Chan movies, like late era Jackie Chan movies that are from the late era of Jackie Chan's career when I still tried to give a fuck. I no longer do. But this was those painful years when it was still real to me. Damn it, to quote the wrestling fan. I have CZ12 or Chinese Zodiac. Um, the couch fight's fun, if you know what that reference is. There's a fight. They do a hot lava fight, basically, Brad, where it's
Oh,
he and
okay.
a dude play hot lava while they're fighting each other. So they're like just hopping on furniture and nobody's trying to touch the ground. It's
Sounds fun. Is
stupid
there
as
a
fuck.
reason why they're not touching the ground?
I don't even remember. I just
Okay.
remember that was like the one decent moment in the movie. And then it
Mhm.
gets like weirdly, uncomfortably patriotic. And
Mhm.
Oliver Platt plays an asshole in it. He plays an ugly government agent, like ugly American government
Yeah.
agent in it.
Yeah.
And he's like dialed up to 11. He's doing his um 2012 the 2012 character basically.
Okay.
If you get the reference. I also have Police Story 2013. I think it's called Police Story Lockdown in our region. Shit, just shit. I have a few more. That's a lie. There's a lot more. Sorry. I have Deliver Us from Evil, which is a Korean manhunt slash thriller movie. Not the sum of its parts. It has some really amazing acting talent in it, but it feels weirdly toothless. It feels. I've been getting a vibe from certain Korean productions in recent years that I think they're too popular now. Like, I think they're trying to like sanitize some of their bigger movies now, because before there was a nasty edge that just doesn't seem as common anymore. It's still there for sure. It's just there's a little bit more restraint is being shown these days. There's a lot of things that should have gone farther in that movie that just don't. And it's very vexing to watch. I have Judge and Jury, which I bought because of the cover, Brad. Because
I get that.
look at that. I saw that on the shelf and I was like, I don't care if it's DVD. I need that in my home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
believe it or not, that's David Keith on the cover there with the flame orange hair. I thought it was going to be like a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing. Um, but basically, what you need to know about this movie, Brad, is that the mid '90s, Jim Carrey was everything.
Mhm.
The Riddler was everything. Drop Dead Fred, like just manic human cartoon characters were just everywhere, and that's what that is. It's the bad guy from the original Karate Kid, Martin Cove. He plays the good guy in that, and he has to fight that orange-haired piece of shit.
Okay.
It's terrible. Big Eyes from Tim Burton. I blind bought it because I was curious. Still as shit. Next of Kin, which I bought because the back of the box description. Like I listened to a podcast about this movie, and then I read the back of the box description. I was like, so hang on, Patrick Swayze as like he's like a hill person, and Liam Neeson plays his brother, and the hill people fight the mafia. I was like, I need to see this movie, and I didn't need to see that movie.
Yeah.
It's not terrible or anything, and the premise, I stand by the premise. Just on paper, that is kind of hilarious. But yeah, and then I have a stack of boxing movies because it's a subject that I'm fascinated in, but unfortunately, it's also a subject that yields a lot of shit movies. So I blind buy a lot of these, and I'm mostly let down. So I have Chuck D, the Kickboxer, which is not a bad movie. It stars a actual French Muay Thai kickboxing champion that went to Thailand and became a champion. He's not an actor though, and it's a dull ass movie. I watched it once, never ever again, many, many, many years ago. Big George Foreman reviewed it by myself the other day. Probably never going to watch it again unless the girlfriend wants to watch it, which she might. Um, I have Knockout, which is a Chinese boxing film that has not very good boxing scenes, and for some reason there's a common trope in Chinese cinema where it's like we do a sports drama and it's usually like a single father with a sick kid or something. And it's very similar to Southpaw in that way, except for the kid is not sick in Southpaw, but it's a single father, and he's got to punch people for a living because he's got to support his daughter. Hard times. I got Jungle Land, which is a movie I don't think anybody knows about. Do you know this one, Brad?
I feel like you've brought it up before. Is the only reason I know about it.
That's the only reason you know about it, is because I
Is there
brought it.
is this something with prison? Is there a prison involved?
There is
Or
no prison involved, although
okay,
there's
maybe I'm
the
thinking of
threat
something
of
else.
prison hanging over the whole film.
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Anyway, it's Charlie Hunnam and Jack O'Connell as brothers who do like bare knuckle boxing kind of stuff. Like they do like underground street boxing and stuff, and it's about the toxic relationship that they have. Trivia factoid: this was the first time I ever saw Jonathan Majors in a film. He has a small role in this. I took a chance on this one because I caught a random trailer for it, and it was oddly similar to like a script idea that I was working on with my brother at the time. And I was like, oh, I got to see how the internet stole my idea. Ours was better. It's not a bad movie at all. It's just kind of like forgettable. I barely remember it. And then the one that I didn't want to talk shit about because it's so small. 12 round gun, and look at that text, Brad.
Oh wow,
How's
yeah.
that make you feel?
Yeah. Ooh, yikes.
So this, as far as I can tell, written and directed by Sam Upton, who is also the star. My guess is that this was a vehicle for Sam Upton's career. I will give him this much. He has put in his time in the gym. He is a super jacked individual with unconventional bone structure. Just say that much. But the production values on that are odd. Like the way they stage the boxing scenes, Brad, is they have an actual ring, so they got that, but they hang like black curtains on the outside, on the exterior of the ring, to simulate, to like create negative space basically. But it's very obviously like trash bag material or just black curtains. It's like I can see light bouncing off of something that's very, very close to the ring. It's like I understand that's supposed to be a void. It doesn't appear to be that though.
Oh,
um,
that sounds great. I got to check that out.
it's typical sports drama, family drama stuff where there's a lot of like people, Stella, like lots. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a vehicle for the writer, director, star. I don't think it got him anywhere, but he made it. I blind fucking bought it because I will do that when there's boxing gloves involved. I'm that much of a degenerate. Uh, I don't know how many other people bought that movie, but I watched it and I have no desire to ever watch it again. Yeah. Anyway,
One and done. One and
one
done.
and done. This was our conversation about one and done films, and how better to end it with that, with 12 round gun,
Yeah.
written and directed and starring Sam Upton. No shade. I swear. Anyway, thanks again for joining me, Brad. This was great fun as always. As always, it feels like it's been a really long time, although it probably hasn't. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's always great to be here. Always great to be here.
Very cool, man. Well, before we get going, Brad, how about you let our listeners and hopefully our viewers know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Yeah. So it's the Cinema Speak podcast. We are on social media, on Twitter or whatever it's called nowadays, at the
Yes.
Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. And you can also find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
All righty. That's great, Brad. Tell me, is Twitter gonna be okay? Like, am I gonna have to find a different way to contact you?
Yeah, we might want to have something back up in place just in case. But we're both on Instagram, right? I think we're both on Instagram together, so we can always.
Yeah, I'm getting worried about this X business. That came out of
Yeah,
nowhere, and it's making me nervous, man.
very strange, very strange.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the
But
world
whatever
is
it's called, we are there for now.
good to know. Okay, well, as for myself and my show, it's called Catching Up on Cinema, in case you didn't know what the fuck you've been watching for the past 2 hours. You can find us on our website. You can find all of our content collected on our website at catchinguponcinema.com. You can also find us on the Twitter /X at Catching Cinema, and also the Instagram, the much more stable platform of Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. And the podcast is available on pretty much every platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google it. That being said, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Say goodbye, Brad.
Have a good one. Thanks.